Hey there and welcome to a new VR gaming update video. November is a pretty big month for the Quest and then okay months for other platforms. Makes sense though that the Quest re-release will also come with an uptick of games for that headset, but before we get into that, as always, let's have a quick look at what got released last month. First we have Dungeons of Eternity, an up to 3-player co-op dungeon crawler by Othergate, a new studio comprised of former Oculus employees. Reception on this one was pretty much positive around the board. 6 Degrees of Freedom gave it a foundational 7 out of 10. Quote, Dungeons of Eternity is not yet the must-have, but it lays a great foundation for what could eventually grow to become a rich multiplayer experience. End quote. Mirroring pretty much the sentiment from other reviewers, the mechanics are all very solid, but it's a bit lacking in variety. If Othergate manages to deliver quality post-launch content, something they have announced they will be doing, then this one could turn into something cool over time. Only on the Quest though, which is a shame, but the developers have stated that they are looking into bringing the game to other platforms. The VR reimagining of the 30-year-old point-and-click adventure, The Seventh Guest by Vertigo Games, dropped on October 19th on all major VR platforms. This one caught the attention of the general games media, resulting in a strong 77 on OpenCritic. The VR Realm gave it a must-buy badge. Quote, The Seventh Guest has been perfectly reimagined in VR by Vertigo Studios and X-Key. They have used the new technology to bring this old game back to life like never seen before. End quote. Most reviews point out the clever way in which puzzles were reimagined to work in VR, while the few ones on the lower side of the spectrum struggled with VR controls or bugs. On Steam, the game sits at an impressive 93% very positive rating. On October 26, the 4-player co-op Ghostbusters game Rise of the Ghost Lord released on the Quest and the PSVR 2. Previews were a bit more on the negative side for this one, and come release, it's very quiet. Next to no media coverage, which would be surprising as the game was developed by InDreams, one of the bigger players in the VR scene, and it was published by Sony, but they did not give out any review codes for the game, probably worried the reviews will be as negative as the previews. Road to VR gave it a spin nevertheless, and they actually liked it. Quote, Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord certainly looks and feels the part of a proper co-op Ghostbusters title, offering an undeniably well-built VR experience that will leave you with a smile on your face early on. End quote. Just a quick look at a YouTube search paints a different picture though. Also on October 26, the story-driven adventure game Journey to Foundation released on Quest and the PSVR 2. This also had very little media coverage, so I don't have any rating to show you, but the impressions you can find online are all a bit mixed, pointing out that this is a very dialogue-heavy game and maybe VR is not the best medium for listening to dialogue for several hours. The story is supposed to be pretty cool though. On Halloween, Foglands released on the PSVR 2, we'll talk about its critical reception in next month's episode. We have 2 delay announcements. The PSVR 2 version of Vertigo 2 that was announced for this October was delayed without a new release date so far. Then we have a big delay announcement from Skydance Interactive, the studio behind the fantastic The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners games. Their newest project, the monster hunting game called Behemoth, was initially announced for late this year, but was now delayed a whole year to late 2024.
The beast inside me, I can no longer control it. I will hunt them down, and my vengeance will be legendary.
Under the dark skies of Venice, you are bound to make a mark in this narrative-driven adventure RPG set in the World of Darkness universe. You play as Justice, the vampire of clan Banu Hakim, the assassins under the vampires. This is mainly a stealth assassin type game. There will be a main storyline to follow and side missions to accomplish. Explore the streets and rooftops of Venice, level up your powers or disciplines, and uncover a dark conspiracy. There will be NPCs to interact with, puzzles to solve, and collectibles to find. Previews that are available for this game give some Dishonored vibes. If that turns out to be the case, that would be a strong play. Arcane Studio inspired, well, pre-Redfall Arcane Studio inspired gameplay would be a great fit for VR. Vampire the Masquerade Justice drops on November 2nd on the Quest and the PSVR 2 for $30. So far there are no concrete plans for a PCVR release, but the studio Fast Travel Games stated that they are leaving all doors open for a future Steam version.
You do well to remember that. Because if you don't, I'll make things very uncomfortable for you.
All right, listen up. I've called you all here because you each have a particular skill set to get the job done. The target is Muckingham, and we're gonna get our hands dirty.
Powerwash Simulator was a surprise hit of last year, a game that managed to create a zen-like experience like few others have achieved before, still sitting at a 97% overwhelmingly positive on Steam. And it was from the start pretty obvious that this needs to be in VR, right? So here we are. In Powerwash Simulator you'll be cleaning stuff. You clean alone or you clean together with friends. There are some new features in the VR version. You can choose your equipment from the back of the van and change your nozzles on the fly from your handy tool belt, but all in all it's the same game, just in glorious 6 degrees of freedom. Powerwash Simulator VR lands on the Quest on November 2nd for $25. There are no plans for a release on other platforms so far.
Get paid and get out of Dodge.
Well, that's not how I imagined work at Sky Chase. I wanted to traverse the city's rooftops. Fly like a bird.
Stride Fates is a sequel to VR's most popular parkour game, but this time it's more of a story-focused shooter with parkour elements. You play as an aspiring parkour spec ops officer. That is the thing 100%. To rise in the ranks of the Sky Chase police force, you'll have to deal with gangs, family feuds, corporate secrets, forbidden tech and much more. There will be a lot of climbing and vaulting and jumping and shooting. You will be exploring open world-ish locations and use your gadgets and hacking skills to outwit your enemies. Stride Fates looks like everything people wanted Stride to be, and here lies the problem. Fates was initially announced as a free update to Stride. Players have been waiting for a story mode for the game for a long ass time. The announcement that this won't be a free update but a full-priced, well, kind of full-priced, standalone game has not made the players of the original game happy. And they made their unhappiness known through the usual channels. This is not the first time, by the way, that the studio Joyway has made some unpopular decisions. Apart from all that, I think it looks cool, so we'll have to see how it goes. Stride Fates will release on the Quest on November 9th for $30. There will be a Steam VR version sometime next year. It is unclear at this point if there will be a PSVR 2 release.
Higher, into the rooftops, to freedom.
Welcome to my arena of hellfire. In here, no one plays nuns. Two sides enter, but only one side can survive.
On the same day we have a game that has a similar story to it. Strange how these things work out sometimes. Demeo is a digital tabletop game that released in May 2021 for Steam VR and the Quest. Later the game also got flat screen support and a PlayStation version. It's a pretty popular game, it always had a positive vibe to it. Demeo Battles is a PvP spin-off, taking the rules of the main game to 1v1 and 2v2 battles. Choose your hero or two heroes if you play 1v1. Assemble an army of monsters to take into battle and duke it out. Your enemy is not the only danger on the battlefield though. The burn is a flood of lava that encroaches from the sides towards the center of the map, basically acting as a battle royale wall to force players to a showdown in a set time frame. As a result, a typical Demeo battle ends in under 20 minutes. As with the main game, this one will also have flat screen and VR support with full crossplay. And as with Stride Fates, a lot of people feel that this should have been a part of the main game to begin with. A major concern here is the active player count. As a PvP only game, it needs a certain amount of players to stay alive. It remains to be seen if enough players are interested enough in a PvP only version of Demeo to shell out the $20 asking price. Demeo Battles will release on November 9th on the Quest and on Steam. No word on a PlayStation release yet. This one could have gone to the port section at the end of the video, but it's not a full port and it's an important game for VR, so I'll give it a short section on its own. Pavlov is by far the most popular VR PvP shooter, dating all the way back to 2017, the early days of VR. Somehow to this day it still acts as a benchmark for VR shooters. There's a Quest version of Pavlov called Pavlov Shack that is available for over 2 years now in a beta state for free. That will change though with a full release. Pavlov Shack is a PvP shooter, well mainly PvP shooter, with a bunch of different game modes. You got your Counter-Strike inspired search and destroy, you got an Among Us inspired social deduction mode, you got an asymmetrical 1v9 monster hunting mode and much more. There are hundreds of community made mods, some of the best weapon handling of any VR game, with lots of attachments and ultra realistic reload mechanics. The game is a bit simplified compared to the PC or the PSVR 2 version to make it run on mobile hardware. That is why it is more of a standalone product with its own name. That is also why there will be no crossplay with other platforms. Pavlov Shack releases for the Quest on November 14th for $20.
Come in, this is the Brotherhood. Abstergo are working on a way to use ancient technology to profile people and align them to Templar beliefs.
AAA VR games are few and far between. The ones that are actually good and successful are even fewer. Let's see if Assassin's Creed Nexus makes the list. The story actually takes place in modern times, kind of. Abstergo industry have found a way to influence the beliefs of men through ancient artifacts. To disrupt their plans, you must hack into the minds of 3 iconic assassins and relive their stories. This way you'll play as Ezio from Assassin's Creed 2, as Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, and as Cassandra from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, each within their respective time period and environments, but with new stories. Nexus will be a full-length Assassin's Creed game, full-length as in older AC titles, not as in Valhalla. It will have a strong focus on parkour and stealth. You have your hidden blade that you can reveal with a flick of a wrist for assassinations. There will be throwing weapons, ranged weapons like bows and crossbows, and melee combat with an active parry system. The game will offer a whole lot of comfort and accessibility options. That's good because it looks to be quite intense. I've seen a lot of skepticism about this one early on. That has for the most part dissolved more and more with each gameplay reveal. It looks quite promising actually. The only downside is platform exclusivity, at least for now. Assassin's Creed Nexus releases on November 16th, only on the Quest for $40.
Snake Eyes has betrayed our clan. I need you to take care of him before word gets out. I'm counting on you.
Let's go! Come take this shit, she my guy, cause you blame it on me.
Tiger Blade is a stylized arcade action game featuring what the studio called slash and dash gameplay, so no free movement. You'll use your sword to slash an enemy and then you will auto dash to the next location. The game is heavily inspired by the on-rails light gun shooter Time Crisis, so this is more of a throwback to the old arcade days with a fresh coat of paint. You can switch between sword and pistol, completed as your loadout with a grapple, which will allow you to grab more powerful weapons like the SMG and shotguns out of your enemy's hands to use them until they run dry. The game takes place in neo-Korean environments that are based off of real-world locations in Korea, and you will swing your sword to the beat of Korean hip-hop. The studio making this game is based in Paris though. Tiger Blade is scheduled to release on November 17th, exclusive to the PSVR 2.
I saw a means to realize my potential, to transcend the human form, to become the predator I was always born to be.
Netflix hit show Stranger Things gets a VR game, a game about which is actually very little known so far. What we do know is that you play as a Vecna. The synopsis reads like this: become an explorer of unknown realities as you form the hive mind and tame the void. Invade minds and conjure nightmares in your quest to enact revenge on 11th and Hawkins. The city of Hawkins, that is. You will relive memories from Henry's time at Hawkins' lab, and you will inhabit the dreams and memories of some characters from the show to make them do your bidding. There will be some mixed reality features if you play on the Quest 3, like the ability to open portals to the upside down in your living room. Not sure if these will be real gameplay elements or just gimmicks though. The game is developed by Tender Claws, who made the mark on the VR world with a very popular virtual reality. Stranger Things VR will come to the Quest on November 30th for $30. When the game was initially revealed last year, it was announced for major VR platforms, which usually includes Quest, Steam and the PSVR 2 these days, but it is unknown if other platforms are still on the table at this point.
It's time.
Ports. Preachers is a tactical PvP shooter heavily inspired by Rainbow Six Siege that had a lot of hype and excitement going on when it released in April on Steam and the Quest. Since then it has gotten a little quiet around the game and player numbers have dropped off quite a bit. Maybe the PSVR 2 version can breathe new life into the game. With full crossplay between all platforms, that could very well be possible. Preachers lands on the PSVR 2 in November, no exact date was announced so far, also no price, but on other platforms is $30. Peaky Blinders: The King's Ransom is an action-adventure game based on the British crime drama series which released in March for Quest and Pico devices. The game's critical reception was more on the lower side of the spectrum due to a very short playtime and kind of shallow mechanics. At least the playtime will be a bit better for the complete edition, which will include all DLC for the game. Peaky Blinders: The King's Ransom Complete Edition will land on Steam and the PSVR 2 in November. Again, no exact date and no price announced so far. That was it for the new VR games coming in November. Next month we will probably see Bulletstorm VR, Arashi Castle of Sin, Asgard's Wrath 2 and Arizona Sunshine 2. So leave a like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date in the world of VR gaming.